Chris Bowen's electric vehicle strategy is in trouble after government department officials predict electric cars will make up 27% of new car sales by 2030. The target, based on RepuTex modelling, was way higher, at 89%. Joining us live now, National Senator Matt Canavan. This report courtesy of The Australian this morning. Matt's a long way short.
Oh, well, look, it is. And look, I think these arbitrary targets are artificial and not really important to most Australians. What most Australians want is a government that tries to make their lives easier. And I just wish the government had a target to bring down the cost of living rather than a target to artificially boost the number of electric cars. And it goes to the priorities of this government that their major assistance here for drivers in a world of very high petrol prices is to subsidise the most expensive vehicles on our road. And what these statistics really show is that even by 2030, only a third of Australians, on the government's own figures, only a third of Australians are going to be able to afford an electric car. I mean, the cheapest electric car starts over $40,000, and they're the very base models. You're really looking at $50,000, $60,000 to get a decent electric car. And obviously only the very wealthy can afford that. And so these statistics show that the government's strategy to deal with the cost of living is only helping the wealthiest Australians.
Well, and the infrastructure's not there too, right?
Well, look, that'll come, I'm sure. I mean, I also don't think the government should be wasting my taxpayers' dollars on subsidies to wealthy people and then more subsidies to roll out charging vehicles. I mean, if there's a demand for charged vehicles, that will be built. I mean, I can't remember, I read a lot of history, Peter, but I just can't remember governments having to build Shell service stations back when horses or cars replaced horses. I can't remember that. I think what seemingly happened was we had no service stations at all at the turn of the century. And then because there was this massive demand for internal combustion engines and how much superior they were to horses, the private sector businesses built these things from scratch and looked after customers. And the same thing will happen here. If there's a demand, businesses will support it. I'm just sick and tired of the government force-feeding choices onto consumers. Let people make their own mind up. I've got nothing against electric cars. They're coal-fired power cars. If I didn't have 5 kids, I'd probably be looking to get one, but because they're great and fun to drive. But I don't want my taxpayers' dollars subsidising the choices of just a few. Just let people decide what's best. That's always what's best for our society. Let individuals make their choices, and government should focus on their major job of controlling spending your money and keeping down inflation.
OK, just finally, China has responded overnight to this naval incident that involved one of our divers, one of whom was injured. So China says its military highly professional and acted in accordance with international laws. This after a strongish response from the Prime Minister yesterday to Kieran. Squibbed the question on whether he told Xi Jinping or not, but regardless, what do you make of China's response overnight? We're kind of back here again.
Well, it looks like China's providing more details than their own Prime Minister here. And I think the Australian people deserve to know what the Australian Prime Minister did in San Francisco. He was there on taxpayers' dollars. It wasn't clear why he had to go and visit President Xi Jinping for the second time in just a few weeks. But he did, and he did speak to him. And the Australian people deserve to know here. We can only really conclude right now, if the Prime Minister stays silent, that he didn't raise this issue. And I really worry that he's failed a test here. The Prime Minister's failed a test that effectively I think the Chinese military has set up for him. And he's shown himself to be incredibly weak, and that puts us into a very, very difficult position as a country. We need our leaders to be strong and stand up to other countries, especially in defence of those Australians that put themselves on the front lines. I mean, here the Prime Minister has just seemingly failed, to stand up for Australian soldiers, and really that is a gross dereliction of his duty.
Matt Canavan, we're out of time, but we'll talk to you again soon.